Alright then, so let's have a bash now at creating a new object using object literal notation. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, let's create a variable to store this object in. So we'll set that equal to something. Now the way we create an object using object literal notation is by using curly braces. Just like when we used square brackets to make an array, we use curly braces to make an object literal. So inside this object, we're going to have several different properties, and each property is going to be a key value pair. For example, say we wanted a name property, then we'd give it a key value, which is name, and also a value, which I'm going to say is crystal, a string. So this is a key and this is a value. It's a key value pair, and that makes up one property of this user object. Now, if we want to add more, we just comma separate them. So a comma there, then we'll go to the next line and we'll do another property. So we'll say age is 30. And then the next line, email is going to be crystal@thenetninja.co.uk. And then we'll also do a location property. We'll say Berlin. And then we'll do a blogs property, which is going to be an array of different blogs this user has created. So first of all, why mac and cheese rules, and then we'll do one more and we'll just say 10 things to make with Marmite. Okay, so the last one doesn't need a comma after it. We only place a comma on the ones where there's another key value pair after it. Okay, so that's how easy it is to make an object. Now this way of formatting, where each key value pair or each property is on a new line, is just for readability. If you wanted to, you could place them all on one line like this and it would work exactly the same way. It just doesn't look as readable. So I don't like to do that. I like to place each property or each key value pair on a separate line. Now then, we have this user object. Let's first of all log it to the console and see what it looks like over there. So console.log, then user. All right, so if we head on over to the console, first of all, we need to update our URL because we're on chapter 5 now. Hit enter. And now we can see this object, and I can expand it by clicking on this arrow. And all of these different key value pairs are the ones that we made over here. You're also going to see this proto property right here. Now that is important, but we're not going to cover that just yet. We'll cover that in a later chapter when we talk about object-oriented programming. For now, just know that we have all of the different properties right here. We can also expand blogs because that is an array, and we can see those two things in the array. Now, what if we want to access one of the properties from this object? Well, we can use dot notation. So if we wanted the name, for example, we could, let me just duplicate this line, come to the end over here. We could say user.name, and that is going to get us this value right here. Save it, and we can see crystal. Now, what if we want to overwrite one of these values? So say, for example, I want to change the age. Well, I could just do it here, but if I wanted to do it later on in the code, I could say something like user.age is now equal to 35. And now if I console.log the user.age, it's going to be 35 and not 30. So let's review this and we can see 35. If I comment this out, then it should be 30, the original value. Okay, so that's how we can update a property on an object. Now we can also access and update properties using square bracket notation instead of dot notation. So this is just another way to access and update properties. So let me show you that. I'm going to try and access the name property like we did here, but this time using square bracket notation. So I'm going to say console.log, then we want the user object, then square brackets, then the name of the key that we want to grab. Now this has to be in string format, so quotations, then I'm going to look for the name, all right, which is this thing right here. If I save that, we can see now it's crystal, okay? If I wanted the email, I just type in that key, save, and now we can see the email property. So we can also update things this way. If I now say user and then the name is equal to Chun Lee, now that's going to grab the name property and it's going to update it to this value instead of crystal. So now if we console.log and we want the user and name like so, save, it's now going to be Chun-Li. So that's the basics of creating an object using object literal notation and how we can access the different properties using dot notation and square bracket notation as well. A lot of the time I prefer to use dot notation, but occasionally this can be useful, especially if we're passing some kind of variable in here. For example, I could say something like const nm, or key rather, is equal to, for example, location. Then if I wanted to, I could just grab the location by passing in the key. Now, if we were using dot notation, I couldn't say, okay, well, get the user dot key, because that would look for a key property or a property name of key on the object. This down here, all we're doing is passing this string via the variable into the square brackets. So this is the same as saying user and then location. So that's one of the advantages of using square brackets, but most of the time we don't need to do that. Most of the time I will be using dot notation. I just wanted to make you aware of this way as well. Okay, so let's just place the string location back in there. So then one final thing, what I'd like to do is just use the type of operator to show you the type of this thing that we created. So I'm going to say console.log and then say type of and user. So hopefully we should see object because it is of object type. So there we go, my friends. That is object literals in a nutshell. In the next video, what we're going to do is look at how we can add methods to this object.